So for this video I wanted to share some of my warm-up techniques that are going to help you guys develop your technical skills. Whether you're an experienced player or just got the game yesterday, the exercises I go over are going to help you develop your in-game mechanics. Now this routine is for people that are looking for a lightweight development path. I've condensed my warm-ups into 6 different steps, and I recommend spending about 5 minutes with each for a total of 30 minutes. If you stick with this, I guarantee you it will be more beneficial than any 6 games you would play in that time span. There are different variants for each stage depending on your skill level, so it's important that you choose drills that challenge you, and I'll get more into that in just a second. I also want to say that free play is hands down the best way to improve your mechanics. Custom trainers are great to build consistency and set up isolated situations, but these perfect setups are extremely rare in-game. Free play, on the other hand, forces you to get comfortable on the ball and create opportunities for yourself. It might be slower to set up than custom training at first, but this is infinitely more valuable. For this reason, the majority of our time warming up is going to be spent in free play. One more thing before we get going, I want to share with you the way that a skill develops in Rocket League. So this graph represents different aerial skills and their difficulty, and this shows a healthy development. When you start learning a skill, you're able to perform it with little or no consistency, and eventually it becomes second nature in games. Essentially, this means that there are 2 ways to improve from a technical standpoint. We can either expand our skills, which is represented by this yellow area, or we can increase our consistency, which is the green area. This routine is going to help you do both, so let's get started. So for the first set, you want to practice moving around at maximum speed. The idea is to push your limits of the pace that you're comfortable playing at. Start out by playing the ball off the wall and hitting it right after it bounces off the ground. Try to stay at supersonic speed for as long as possible and focus on getting powerful hits. The rhythm may be a little difficult at first, but eventually it'll feel like second nature. Remember, it's much easier to hit the ball with power if it's rolling towards you than away from you. A great drill I like to do is to hit the ball off the backboard and move side to side around the midfield line trying to pass the ball to myself off the backboard. Keep this going as long as possible. To start challenging yourself, go for quick aerials as soon as the ball bounces off the walls. The goal here is to make contact and work on quick recoveries. As a tip, hold power slide as you land on the ground to maintain your momentum. That's really all there is to this stage. If you're comfortable with advanced skills like dribbling, flicks, or off-the-wall aerials and others, feel free to practice these during this phase. Just remember to work through these skills at maximum speed. There's a lot you can do in this section, but ultimately you want to focus on control of your car and the ball while on the ground. For absolute beginners, drive across the map 10 or 15 times to get comfortable dodging and boosting. Figure out what movements get you to supersonic speed and how wide you can turn while maintaining that speed. If you don't know what that is, that's when purple jets start shooting out from underneath your wheels. Work on adding power slides to your movement. Try doing 90-degree turns around the goal line, or boost at the ball and do a 180 power slide to land in front of it. Remember, it is better to power slide less than you need to and adjust by turning than to over power slide and spin out. Now to make contact with the ball, drive up to the ball and tap it lightly, then drive past it and do a 180. From here, you want to drive the ball into the goal as quickly as possible. Pretend you're on a breakaway in a game that you have defenders behind you. The next step is to repeat the same action, but do a power shot after you first touch it and it bounces. When this gets easy for you, it's time to start dribbling. Dribbling is extremely difficult to learn and can cause a lot of frustration. Remember to take it slow and be patient. Start by tapping the ball lightly around the field to manipulate its movement. Treat the small boost pads along the center of the goal as obstacles and guide the ball to the left or right of them. Add difficulty to this drill by putting the ball on top of your car. Learning how to do this is extremely difficult at first, so just try to pop the ball on your hood and let it hit your car once. After that, just try to keep the ball on your roof as long as possible. As a tip, Think of the roof of your car as a half sphere in the way it interacts with the ball. Once you can hold the ball on your roof for 15 to 20 seconds comfortably, start taking it towards the goal and practicing your flicks. Another variation is to get the ball rolling towards you and start a bounce dribble, touching the ball immediately after it bounces each time. Kevpert has a great video on practice methods for power sliding, bounce dribbling, and flicks. I'll link it in the description. This portion is all about learning to move comfortably in the air. As an absolute beginner, start by jumping up and floating around the map. Try to move from goal to goal without touching the ground. Once you can stay up indefinitely, add spins and air rolls to make it a little bit more difficult. Another drill is to get on the goal line and fly from goal to goal. Try starting with no speed, starting with moderate speed, and supersonic speed, and take note of how your momentum affects how quickly you get into the air. Once this is comfortable, start rolling the ball up the walls and try to make contact with it while it's still in the air. I've found the best way to do this is to jump and dodge to make contact with the top half of the ball so that it rolls smoothly up the wall. My favorite drill is to practice popping the ball into the air and following it up. Get the ball rolling towards you and drive straight into it to give it some height. This is a great way to learn how to aerial, and I use the skill in pretty much every game. When you feel like you've mastered the pop-up, start practicing them with backwards aerials and other air roll combinations. For advanced players, I recommend using this time to practice double touches and air dribbles from the ground. Finally, just like in the first phase, spend some time hitting the ball off the backboard or sidewall and redirecting it into the goal. Remember, throughout this whole training routine, you're not going to be able to fit everything into a 5-minute training. Think back to the skill graph that I showed earlier, and try to focus on the skills that challenge you. The first thing I want to do is roll the ball up the wall just like in the last stage, and follow it up to try to hit it towards goal. If you aren't comfortable playing on the walls yet, spend some time driving on them and jumping off. Try different dodges, or even fly wall to wall. A good drill for beginners is to lightly tap the ball, then jump off the wall and try to score when you land. This is a great time to practice defense as well. Roll the ball up the back wall and try to clear it. Additionally, you should practice going around your goal with the ball. This is great for relieving pressure in game situations and setting up quick counterattacks. Spend a lot of time on the drills I've just mentioned, and when you feel comfortable, try tapping the ball once while driving on the wall and following it up with an off-the-wall aerial. As a tip, to even yourself out when jumping off the wall, air roll towards the wall that you've just jumped from. It's not a bad idea, however, to go for sideways or upside down aerials here. Finally, it's time to practice air dribbles. I strongly recommend watching Mason RL's in-depth air dribble tutorial before trying this, and I'll link that in the description. When you're an expert at this, you'll be able to catch the ball into an air dribble from anywhere on the field. What I love about this phase is that all your skills start to come together. First, you need dribbling to take the ball up the wall. Then you need wall and aerial skills to get it into the goal. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the ways we can improve at Rocket League is to think back to our skill graph and focus on shifting our inconsistencies into natural movements. To do this, I suggest going into custom training to isolate certain mechanics. Watch replays and ask yourself where your weaknesses are. These should be skills that you're typically comfortable with, but still need a little polish. For beginners, basic goalie, shooting, and aerial trainings are a must to build a solid foundation. For mid-level players, Work on skills like power shots and clears, wall hits, first touches, half flips, reading bounces off the backboard, and others similar to that. I've created over 30 training packs on Xbox, and I'll link that in the description. So once you've singled out a mechanic to build consistency with, you want to repeat the same shots over and over until they start to feel natural. It may be boring, but muscle memory is everything in Rocket League. Try to score a shot 10 times at least before you move on to the next one. To distract myself from the repetition, I like putting on Netflix or a podcast while I do this. And that's really all there is to this phase. Our last stage is about exploring new skills. This is the process of shifting the red areas of our mechanics into the yellow. Just like in the last portion of our warm-up, find a custom trainer that will help you learn the new mechanic and really spend some time on it. Usually it helps to watch a tutorial video on a certain skill beforehand as well. The ultimate goal of this phase is to take skills that you can't perform, get familiar enough with them to start doing them in games and in free play occasionally, and eventually building them into consistency in Stage 5. As a suggestion, beginners should work immediately on half flips, fast aerials, rebounds, backward saves, dribbling, and wall clears, just to name a few. For mid-level players, things like off-the-wall aerials, redirects, inverted aerials, bounce dribbling, flicks, and eventually air dribbles are all things that you'll want to explore. Learning some of these mechanics can be a slow and painful process, so just be patient with yourself and keep at it. Also, for this stage as well as the last one, remember to choose only one skill each time you go through this warm-up. So that's it. 6 levels, 5 minutes apiece. Within a week, you'll see definite improvement in your mechanical skill and comfortability on the ball. One thing I love about this routine is that as you learn to create goal-scoring opportunities from anywhere on the field, it also gives you an idea of what a teammate or opponent is thinking while they're playing the ball. Once you've started to get comfortable with some of the more advanced skills, you'll notice how everything in free play starts to mesh together. This is when your unique play style will begin to develop. I hope you've enjoyed this and that it gives you insight on a great way to develop your technical skills. At the end here, I'll lay out each phase with a few variations of the drills, as well as an alternate 60-minute training routine to help you develop even quicker. If you have any other ideas for training variations, let me know. Thanks for watching.